Hello and welcome to our 20th Conversation to Connect. Let's Get Real Talk, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm CyndiONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. At Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. Each week, I nominate a different member of our Exceptional Connections community to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice. In my case, it is a carrot juice. And be able to be sure to take notes, add comments into the chat box, and we'll have you engage in the conversation with us around the 45-minute mark. I'll unmute the lines and invite our listeners to ask questions, share the ahas, epiphanies, and enter into our thought-provoking conversation. So the inspiration of our weekly conversations to connect, Let's Get Real Talks, is to create purposeful conversations. We desire to be relevant during these challenging and uncertain times and to support our community to make an impact in the world and stay connected. So as we get started today, I invite you to set aside distractions and invest your attention to the conversation that's about to unfold, and look for just one idea that you can take away and put into action so you don't cheat yourself out of the time you've invested here. So our conversation to connect this week is with the delightful Amy Woidtke, and she is from Northgate, Washington. Our topic today is finding home, the real journey to making space for you. Hi, Amy. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Cyndi. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, what a treat. And I think I botched your name, Woidtke.
Yes.
Woidtke. So thank you. So before I bring Amy on with us today to discuss this intriguing topic, and it's my pleasure to share some background with you about Amy. So Amy is a professional organizer who guides couples and individuals in transition through home revision and relocation so they can experience more time, energy, and a renewed sense of home and hearth. Actually, it's heart and home, but I think home and hearth could work too, right, Amy?
Right.
Whether before, during, or after relocation chaos, clients can breathe deep, relax, and even have fun as Amy helps them navigate their transition more gracefully with her time-saving systems and resources, resulting in a supportive, feel-good home for life's next adventure. Oh, that sounds so relaxing. Moving could be such a stressful thing. So Amy turns clients' deer in the headlight expression into a celebratory grin of victory. Woo! Compliments like saved our marriage during a tense time, and I got to host a dinner party in my new home the same day I moved in. Wow, that's impressive. Are the bee's knees of her work, along with the victorious smiles, hugs, and we love you from clients. To date, Amy has received exclusively 5-star reviews and is awarded Best of Fresh Talk 2020 for Seattle Professional Organizers. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Wow, that's impressive. And I love the way you literally bring the shoulders down from people's, ears. That's a passion of yours. So Amy, before we dive into our intriguing talk today, finding home, the real journey of making space for you. So will you please take a moment to set the tone of our conversation by sharing the foundation of your relationship between self and space? Because I think it's a really important one to talk about before we get going.
Yes, thank you. So I want to start setting the foundation by asking a question, and you can ponder this as we have our conversation. So who knows, or at least has a suspicion that there's a distinct connection between how you feel and how your home feels, and maybe even how your home looks? Well, for those of you who don't feel that, congratulations, because you are one of the lucky few. For most of us, there's a connection between how we feel inside, or our inner space, and how we feel outside ourselves in our home space or our outer space. The state of one can affect the state of the other. And we each have a unique connection, maybe even a signature connection between self and space, which generally has more to do about self than stuff and space. The stuff is, the space is kind of like the byproduct or the reflection of the self. I call this complex interweaving of emotions, actions, and experiences finding home. If this still sounds like mumbo jumbo and you're like, I don't know, and maybe you're not won over by the massive success of home makeover shows and all the books, not proof in the pudding for you. There are also research studies that support this connection between self and space. So I'm here to bring this finding home topic to the table because I love it so much and I want to dive deeper with you for revealing, fun, and down-to-earth conversations, exploring our connection between self and space.
That's beautiful. I love it. Well, our listeners are in for a treat for sure. So Amy, I want to back up a little bit and have you share a little bit more about your journey and your beautiful story, because I think it, just bears kind of a little more in-depth, sharing about that.
Thank you. So I'm the product of two design build entrepreneurs. My dad built homes, my mom laid tile and built fine cabinetry. Together, they built the house that I grew up in the Napa Valley, California, and which I'm kind of excited because it's valued at almost $2 million now. And I hashtagged it so I could track it, the house that Woidtke built. It's in my social media. I just have such a fun time seeing where it's at and everything. I'm also a product of German heritage, which apparently means you're very organized or could be very organized. My dad was that guy that spreadsheet his music, so you could locate it by any topic, category, song, whatever. His desk was Pinterest worthy, and his writing was even immaculate, very angular. And my mom was also super organized too, but more loosely structured. And I'm probably a little bit more like my mom in that respect. I didn't set out to become a professional organizer. In fact, I actually got a bachelor's degree in psychology to become a counselor. And then in my first job interview, promptly realized that being a counselor was not going to be the right fit for me in terms of helping make a difference in the quality of people's lives. I really realized I needed to be creative and physically active in my workplace. And I had a dance background, so I thought, why not aerobics instructor? Because that's movement, creative, physically active, So I got a foot in the door at a gym as a receptionist. And after I had organized everything in sight, my manager was like, Amy, you're really good at this. Have you ever considered becoming a professional organizer? So here I am.
Well, you come by it honestly, that's for sure, with your background. And, what did they say about life gives clues, right? Life gives clues. So I love your story about working retail and having somebody confirm your gifts. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And then just a little bit more. So a pivotal moment in my personal finding home journey had to do with my relationship with my partner. So it was sometime after I had actually probably been rearranging our space for a while. And he's like, because I just love to do it. He's like, I actually, don't really love that when you do that. It's actually really stressful and disorienting for me. And I was like, what do you mean? It's so fantastic. It feels so good. It's fresh perspective and all that. But it really wasn't that for him at all. Because he's more of the guy that likes predictability, routine stuff. And so I realized kind of at that point where I realized if I was going to be in a relationship with him, I was going to have to figure out how to rearrange things less and be a little bit more routine. And at that point, what I knew about myself was that I did rearrange I did do some changes in the house for the seasons, changes of the seasons. I did do it when new things came into the home. And I also did know that it was fun and also therapeutic, or, stress revisioning, as I call it now. And then after some personal reflection, what I realized about myself was when I was doing that revisioning, I was like kind of actually sometimes I was on a mission to find home. So it's like sort of like, oh, maybe if I rearrange it this way, then it will feel like home. But the reality of that particular space was that particular space was never going to feel like home for me, because I had moved there years before out of a relationship that was ending. And so I had always just thought that space was going to be temporary. And so that feeling of temporary just kind of never left. And then the other thing that I realized is like, oh, stress revisioning. So maybe I could not be so stress revisioning like. So like when I feel that need to move things around or whatever, like that ultimately, like if I'm looking for home, but I haven't found home in here, or I'm not feeling at home at that moment in myself, doesn't matter how many changes you make out there, you're still going to be left with that space, of not being satisfied. Kind of like you get the high from rearranging it. Oh, it's so much better now. But then that goes away. And then you're like, sort of everywhere you go, there you are, kind of thing. Sort of like when we retail therapy, it's that same thing, right? You go, you're like, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm going to go retail therapy. And you buy something and you're like, oh, it's so great. And then the greatness of that wears off. And then you're like, oh, and there I am again. So I've become a person that reorganizes a lot less. I tend to stick to the small steps. So my compromise is to not move big things around without asking, and I sort of do smaller things. And then if I feel really super restless, like, oh, I'm just so unhappy in my home space or something like that, then I'm like, maybe there's actually something else going on in here. So that's how I've come to peace with that. And then the bonus of my finding home journey is that I'm able to bring that to the table with clients, so that we can really get to the heart of the matter, and which is especially applicable to chronic reorganizers like how I used to be. And then to get to the heart of the matter, which a lot of the times really isn't about, oh, I just like moving stuff around.
Wow, that is so power packed. It has so many really juicy little tidbits in there. So I love your term stress revisioning. I think that's brilliant, because I think the awareness is what really intrigues me about this last little piece that you shared so much, is that, you're able to see, okay, why am I doing that? It's not just moving the furniture, but maybe there's something that's driving you that needs to be addressed. And instead of just, pushing it aside or putting it in the closet, you're actually taking a look at it. And then one of the things I heard years ago that I heard you say, and it's a slightly different wording, but it's the same concept, is, wherever you go, there you are, right?
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Right.
Because, it's like we keep repeating things. We're not learning that, when we don't learn the lesson, we take it with us.
Right.
And there's an opportunity to explore that lesson again. So, oh, beautiful. I love hearing about your journey, a little bit more. And so let's dig in now and share with us your definition of what is home and what does it mean?
Well, there's like this kind of fancy definition that was in one of the studies that I was reading, which is really a lot of really big words and stuff. But I think what they're generally saying and what their definition of home is sort of makes sense to me, is generally speaking, home is a collection of our experiences, our feelings, our possessions, and our physical spaces that make up our life. Home's not just like that roof over your head. What home means to each of us is very personal and unique. kind of like home is one of your signature spots in the universe. Like this, there was like a pinpoint on the map, you know? And the interesting thing about home is what it means to you can actually change over time because life changes, right? So you have a relationship change, you're separating from your person. So what home means to you when you're with someone versus what home means to you when you're single, and maybe healing from that is one thing. What home means when you're merging spaces with your person is another thing. So home can change. What home means can change. So another question, and I invite you all to sort of think about this. What does home mean to you? Ultimately, it's up to you to shape it. And even if you haven't had like a super great experience of home in the past, like maybe that comes with some negative connotations, like some, just really unpleasant life experiences, you now have the opportunity to craft a new experience of home based on your values and your experiences, the experiences that you want to have in your life moving forward.
So basically, I love this. It's basically you have an opportunity to reshape what home is or recreate it, right? To be able to, and think about it, be intentional, because sometimes it's just a place to live, like you say, a roof over our head. But at other times, we need to think, how can I create home? So it's not just call it home, but create home. And I think that's where make things homely, homey and inviting and comfortable. But one thing you touched on earlier that I think is significant is it's not just your experience. You have to be aware of the experiences of others that you're living with too.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, I love that. So let's talk about something that you and I had talked about earlier in preparing for this conversation. So what happens when home gets out of sorts, if you will? So how does it affect us?
There can be a huge negative effect when home gets out of sorts. There's actually studies have shown that there is a connection between your health, both emotional and physical, and the state of your space. The brain likes order generally. So the studies have shown a couple things, or I'll go down to a few things. So a healthy, pleasing environment can do more than simply improve your mood. It can actually have a positive effect on your immune system and your physical health. So in other words, when your home is feeling good, it's making happy chemicals and it's making you feel good.
It's like the dopamine you talked about, right?
Yes, the dopey, I call it the dopey.
Dopey?
Yeah. So a cluttered environment has a negative influence on actually your perception of home and ultimately your satisfaction with life. So literally, if your home doesn't feel good, it can affect the way that you feel about your life. And the older that we get, the studies found that clutter can affect us more, and even more so how we feel about life, and especially women, which could explain why 85% of the customers at the Container Store are women. Insert fancy
That's noteworthy. That is noteworthy, isn't it?
Right. And then some studies have also found that clutter, which I think actually, clutter can actually be mind clutter, like you got too much going on in the brain. Clutter can be emotional clutter. Clutter can be auditory. So if you've got too much noise of whatever the noise is around you, as well as what we usually identify clutter as, which is physical. So clutter actually produces higher levels of cortisol, our stress hormone, which over time, high levels of cortisol is really bad for your health. It's like it stresses on your body, kind of like when you hang something on a rope and the rope isn't designed to hang something that heavy, and over time it pulls and pulls and pulls, and then it frays and it breaks. That's what having imbalances in the body, like high levels of stress, cortisol can do to your body. And the last thing, some of the responses that the studies noted, brain and body responses are issues with anxiety, sleep, focus, productivity, coping ability, cognition, emotions, behavior, relating to others, even your memory. That's 10 things that having your home out of sorts can affect. And like your space, like if your space isn't in the way that's working for you, it can literally affect your ability to remember things.
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, that is really what makes this conversation so compelling, because it's not just about keeping your space, your home tidy. It's also about the ramifications in terms of, like you say, cluttered mind, emotions, even the music that you put in your house, if it's too loud, that can be a type of clutter as well. So one thing that comes to mind is, we spend our youth collecting things, building our home, if you will, building the possessions, and then our older years purging. So it's kind of an interesting dance that we go through in life.
Right. Oh, look, if I get this thing, if I get that thing, oh, I can get that thing now because I have the money to get that thing. Oh, but if I get that thing, I'll be happy. Sort of that dance between I can afford it so I can get it, or if I get that, I'll be happy, or, or, oh, I think I'm going to do that now, but then you don't ever do that now. All reasons why we collect clutter.
Right. Well, and just acquiring things, right?
Yes,
And
acquisition.
then, something can be valuable, and then 5 years later, it's clutter.
Right.
You don't
Exactly.
need it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the intrigue is. You referenced that earlier, to all these shows that are, home edit, and, different shows that encourage people to purge and to get rid of things. It's not easy to do. I've had challenges myself. I like to collect things and keep things. And for me, one of the reasons for keeping things is, like, when I need it and I've gotten rid of it, I always regret it. I'm like, why did I get rid of that? So it's a mindset, right?
Yeah. But now we have the ability, one of the great things now that we have more like this sort of neighborhood, like borrow gift communities, like Buy Nothing Project, and even just like we have lending libraries that are for books, but now people are putting food in them and stuff, which is really great. But also, people put things on the side of the road and stuff. Our type of commodity has changed in our world, and they're actually even coming out now with more like lending or renting type commodities or communities, so that you can like borrow and lend things with your neighbors. And there's one gal that's working on a specific one, but I don't think I'm at liberty to actually say what she's doing yet, but it sounds really exciting. But people like loan their cars out to their neighbors, but this is all like through an online platform experience, so it's very secure and and safe and all that kind of stuff. But so I think that the point of what I was saying is that now we have more options for, like, in terms like you don't have to keep that tool because you think you might need it someday, because we have tool lending libraries. Mm-hmm. So that's just one example, and with the Buy Nothing communities, there's always like, do you have, can I borrow, so that's the great thing about, and it helps a lot of people to sort of downsize.
Right. Those are great resources and tools. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about moving along to when home gets out of sorts, or when you're relocating? How do we address that?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you something that might be not intuitive, which is you begin with yourself. So it's not by buying a bunch of boxes to pack your house or that kind of thing. So whether you're revisioning your home because you're staying in it and you're reorganizing it, or whether you're relocating, the best place to start is to begin with yourself. So start with self introspection, figuring out like what's not working, how is it affecting me, and also looking at what is working. And then, and this is the work that I do with clients, and then I take them into a visioning exercise where we begin with the end in mind. So it's like, so what does your perfect home look like? So the visioning helps them to discover their perfect home or their signature spot in the universe. It's very much like building a house. When you're going to build a house, you don't just like go out there and grab a hammer and some nails and some wood and a saw and start building on the dirt, right? No, you like get a design. You have a vision for what you're looking for, and then you have a design drawn up, and then that's your guiding light for building your house. So it's the same when you're going to revision, reorganize, relocate your home. The process is very similar. To discover your vision, you look at things like, what are my values? What do I want to be doing in this life? Who do I want to be doing that with? And how can my space best support me in ways that engage like all my senses and operate with the way that I naturally function in life? Like if you're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, you know, that your space is set up so that you can easily find what you need. It feels good, it smells good, all those things. And I have a home visioning exercise that supports the clients through that process.
Wow, I didn't expect you to say that. You know, I'm thinking of it from the, you know, just put things in this box that you don't use, and the sort and keep boxes, and, you know, things that you're not wearing. But really, it is an inside game. I think that's a brilliant approach, is just approaching it from yourself, taking full responsibility, you know, what's working, what's not working. And then I love your idea of having a vision. You know, in the Bible, it talks about, without a vision, my people will perish. So we need a vision, right? A big picture, and then move towards that, and taking those baby steps to create a plan and create a foundation.
Yeah. And I think the importance too of having the vision, and sort of like why I have people start with that, is because it helps you to really decide what's important, but also it helps you, like, if you're figuring out like, am I keeping this? Am I ditching it? You know, what do I, you know, do I need it? Like, it's, so when you have like the end in mind, it helps you to move through the process that comes down the line with the organizing, downsizing, relocating, and that kind of stuff, so that you're not hanging out with, so that you're hanging out with only stuff that you love and that you need and that supports you in your empowered life.
Yeah, I get the power of that. That's just really good to be clear about it. So can you share with us a client story of finding home?
I would love to. I love my clients so much. It's like they just bring such a light to my heart. So it just always makes me giggle too when I get to tell stories about them. So
without naming names, right? Without naming names.
No names, no. So one of my favorite stories is what I like to affectionately refer to as Yin and Yang, an international relocation adventure. Also known as how to relocate together internationally and not kill each other.
That's funny.
Specifically because opposite organizing styles. So this is a couple, it's a husband and wife, and they have kids. They're leaving the nest, and they're relocating to Scotland for his new job. And they have their home that they've raised their kids in, and they have to prepare it to be a rental listing, and they have all the things to do. And their deadline is 2 months. Now, if you're so you know what it's like to move locally on a 2-month deadline, right? Okay, so international moving is like local moving on a lot of steroids. It's like the biggest production of, like, literally, if you don't know what you're doing, madness, that OMG. So thank God for all the professionals that help us do that. So yes, so they have opposite organizing styles. She's a list maker. He's a laissez-faire with a lot of clutter. And for her, it was like super impressive and stressful to think about all the things that had to be done with my opposite style organizing person. You know, it's just like, how's this all gonna happen? Because he's like, do, and she's like, list, checking off the list, and he's like, I'll get it done, you know. She was super bothered by him not moving slower than her, not getting things done. And he told me when they found my website, literally he could see the stress level on his wife's face, like reduce, like down, like several notches, like, okay, maybe we'll be okay. So this was, again, like a massive downsizing, many years of stuff. Some of the stuff hadn't seen the light of day since college, boxes of it. Plus all the project management, all the people that had to be in place, finding them help overseas to do everything once we were over there, and supporting each other, not killing each other in the process, as she calls it. So their finding home journey looked like, what's it look like to live overseas? Like, where are we going to live? What are we taking with us? Like, what's important? Like, this is really a journey about what's important to you, because like paying to ship something overseas is pricey. And so this was like a big journey of finding out like really what's super important, what really matters, plowing through massive amounts of belongings, some with sentimental stories, what goes with us, what are we going to store, what do we need to go to all the other places, like donate, gift, recycle, ditch it. So the self-examination became really crucial in this process. And what they found out is that a lot of stuff wasn't important. They'd literally just been having all this stuff, and at the end, it didn't matter. Multiple loads of donate, gift, recycle, toss. One of the things that I do, sometimes I do like I'm kind of like a bridge builder. I sort of notice, like, I can relate how one person can see and another person can see things. So I'm noticing, so she gave every family member like a checklist on one of those giant like meeting Post-it notes, you know, those big, and they all have their list. And so I noticed that his list didn't have anything checked off. And I was pretty sure that he had done some of those things. And I'm like, so what have you done on here? And he's like, oh yeah, I did that, and that. I'm like, let me give you a tip from a list maker that like you will greatly reduce your wife's stress if you check those things off as you do it. Because when she comes in that room and she sees that nothing on that list is checked off, her stress level is through the roof. She's like, oh my God, he's not doing the things. When in actuality, and you're over here like, oh, I'm doing the things. And she's like, he's not doing the things. So I was like, check it off. There's some marriage advice, relationship advice for you. And so he started checking things off.
Right.
And we wrapped the project on time, and they were off on the road a few days later. In reflection of their finding home journey, she said this: I think it was nothing short of a miracle that we found you. It also probably saved our marriage during a very tense time. Having a third person took away the stress of being so different in our approach to moving an organization, and it helped us to not hate each other during the process. You were organized, helpful, had a terrific sense of humor, and great systems that you taught us. And you helped me see that tasks were doable when they seemed overwhelming. And the biggest takeaway, and I love this, and she says, the funny thing is, or perhaps a benefit of having you help us with the move, is that now I'm a little bit looser about cleanliness and organization, and he's a ton better about picking things up.
That's great. That's great. Victory, right?
Right? It was such a happy takeaway, or, just takeaway discovery to hear
Yeah.
that. It was just,
Well, it's wonderful when you can have a profession where you can make a difference in people's lives and they can, convey that to you. So those are beautiful, compliments. And, I love this, your story, and you specifically picked this story because the fact that it's an international relocation, I think it's actually a brilliant and maybe healthy exercise, even if you're moving locally, because if there's a cost to have to store things or move things, then
mhm.
I think people think twice,
Yeah,
right? And it's
yeah.
it's easy to put things in a box and put it in the corner.
Right. I also encourage people, when you're doing like a revisioning, which is what I call reorganizing your place. I call it revisioning because literally that's what you're doing. Um, I encourage people to approach it from the view as if you are moving, because there's things that you will send out the door that, when you think of it as if you're moving, like imagine that you had to pay to move this kind of thing that you might not keep if yeah, so there are things that you wouldn't keep if you were moving. So why are you keeping it now? And for sometimes some things are like, oh, it's just a placeholder until we move, because then we're going to buy, we have this horrible sofa now because when we move, we're going to buy a new one or whatever. And I'm like, do you have the money to buy a new one now? Well, yeah. Well, why are you keeping this one now? Why don't you just get that new sofa now and enjoy it now? Like, why are you waiting? And if there's not some kind of reason, specific other reason why you're waiting, like, why not do it now? Or why are you keeping that, whatever it is that you're keeping, that bookcase, that horrible bookcase? Oh, well, I'll just get rid of it when I move. No, get rid of it now. Enjoy your space while you're in now. This is what we have today, now. Enjoy your space now. Have your
That's
space
great.
for your empowered life now.
Exactly. That's great advice. So before we kind of close here, I want to add something that you and I talked about, and I'm not sure where exactly it fit in the conversation, but I was sharing with you how I had to move
Yes.
from my home. I'd gone through a divorce and I was relocating to another home, actually the home I'm in now. And my home in the Redmond area had sold really quickly in like 2 weeks. And I had not been looking because I was just needed to have that home sold before I looked for something else. And then I also was just focused on that, getting the house ready.
Yeah.
So the house sold. And now the next task is I need to be out in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So it sold in 2 weeks. I had to be out
Yeah.
in 2 weeks. And I think they ended up giving me like an extra couple days or something like that. But basically, I had to find something and then close on my own. And I found that, and this is something I'd shared with you, and I
Yeah.
think it's valuable in this conversation because maybe somebody can extract something for themselves as well, is I'm a get her done girl. I'm a list girl. I'm a get her done girl. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need anybody telling me what to do. But I was stuck. I had a hard time packing. And I was even to the point where I'm like, why am I not? Why is this so hard? Just throw something in the box if I have to. I just got to get it out of this place and move it to the next. I mean, it got to that point. It wasn't even about organizing anymore. It was just, I got to get it in a box.
Yeah.
And I was really just fighting myself and couldn't figure it out. And then I had an epiphany and I realized, oh, I don't have, here's the vision piece that you mentioned. I don't have a vision of where my things will go. Like, oh, I'll hang the mirror over the fireplace and I'll put the cabinet over to I had no vision for that because I didn't have a location.
Yeah.
So once I had, so the piece I'm bringing in here is mindset, the importance of mindset, which you talked about in terms of, beginning with yourself and having self introspection. So this is my personal story of my self-introspection. I was stuck. I had a deadline. I wasn't taking action. I had girlfriends coming over, but I was not feeling empowered,
Yeah.
and I couldn't figure out why. But once I realized that it was because I didn't have a physical location, and there was a potential that my realtor at the time was saying, "Oh, don't worry, Cyndi. If you don't find a place, you could just get a 1-bedroom apartment and put your stuff in storage." And I was like, "No, no, I can't
No.
do that. Don't, 3 children. No, I'm not doing that." And so that was part of the motivation too, is like, I've got to get a handle on this. So once I got that clarity that it was because I didn't have a vision of where I was going and what it would look like and where things would go, I hate to use the S word, but I was stuck. Once I had that epiphany, even though I didn't have a location, even though I didn't have know where things were going to go, I was able to actually take that challenge on and get everything packed up and moved. And it all fortunately came together. I found this home. They were willing to work with my timeline. We closed quickly. I never had to go to another location. Nothing had to go into storage, but it was tight. It was close.
Yeah.
But anyway, I really relate to that. I think there may be others that are on this call or listening on the replay who can identify in one way or another, if not for themselves, maybe for their children, um, as they're empty nesters or whatnot. So, um, what insights can you offer to somebody who went through a situation like I did and help them to navigate that a little more smoothly, possibly than I was able to?
Well, I think what you're talking about refers back to that the part where when the space is out of sorts, the brain, it's like I talked about how the brain likes order, and that when the brain gets what literally is like overloaded. So I think you had like overload, and it
Yeah.
literally blocks your ability to like function, like to process in whatever way that you needed to. You were literally like, you know. So
True.
I think that um, I think you did the right thing. I think you were like, wow, like what is, and you took the time to try and figure it out, because you're like, well, clearly, like I'm not, like there's a block here. So you had self-awareness. You were like, I'm blocked, something's going on, what's going on? And you went, inside, so to speak, to figure it out. And I think, like, whether you do that yourself, whether you journal it, whether you call a friend, you're like, I don't understand why I'm so blocked. They're like, just put it in a box. You're like, no, it's not that simple. Like I literally my body I'm literally like not functioning well here. Like I can't process. And so, whether, so whether you, figure it out yourself, like, journaling, call a friend, engage a coach, whatever, or, if you're in a super stuck place and you can't figure out how to do it, and maybe you've done all that and you still can't figure out, like, maybe it's just time to call an organizer,
Right.
call an organizer. You can have movers come and pack your stuff. You don't have to hire them for the whole thing. Like I recommend, if you're on a tight budget, hire them for like the breakables, the stuff that's, that if, it matters if it makes it there intact, kind of thing. So like, yeah, you don't have to hire them to pack it all, you could hire them for part of it. So that's another way to sort of like, pull the cork out of the bottle, is to get things moving, is to have someone, but really like, doing that introspection, doing something like a home visioning. I was saying, like, wouldn't that have been great if you had had that exercise like back then, to sort of like help guide you through that. Getting the picture so that you can move forward. Because often it's like you begin with the end in mind, and then you have to reverse engineer it, right? So sometimes what the end is, you know you're going to end up somewhere, but literally you couldn't even see what that was, which is also one of the, it's like all of the professional coaching advice or whatever. It's like, well, where are you going? Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Figure out what it is you're going. And even Shauna's like, huh? Even if it's like you don't have the physical address location, you have an idea. Like, I don't know, get on your Pinterest, get on House, like get on the internet, look. I like looking at realtor.com. Like I look at the realtor sites, I look at the houses, look interesting, you know.
Right.
Because looking at those pictures helps me to formulate like where I'm going and what I want. And then I put them in a folder and then I can look at them over time and stuff. So really having that end point in mind really is the guiding light.
Yes. Well, and in the having friends, I did have a lot of friends come and they helped me because that was accountability. I couldn't just sit there and be overwhelmed. I'm like, you know, I scheduled them and they're like, what do you want me to do? Okay, pack up all the, you know, the pictures or whatever it was.
Right.
But the piece that I think is going to be a wonderful takeaway for our listeners, hopefully, is what Amy said, hire a professional organizer. And here's the kicker, because of my situation, with a psychology degree. Right? That can help hold your hand and walk you through it. So Amy, this has been so much fun. You are truly amazing and a delight. And I'm so excited, you know, to introduce you to our listeners who are on with us right now. But before we do that, share with our listeners ways that they can engage and work with you.
Absolutely. So if you're interested in working with me, I offer a complimentary phone or video consultation. And that's just my website, amywoidtke.com. That's WOIDTKE.com. You can also Google Amy Making Space for You. Usually brings that information up too at my website. I'm all over social media and the internet. So yeah, 30-minute complimentary consultation, no obligation, just to explore if working together is the right fit. I'm doing currently virtual and in-person services. I personally am handling the virtual end of things. And so I'm doing all project management, all virtual sessions, designing, planning, that kind of thing. And then I have contractors on the ground, and this is during coronavirus. So I have two fantastic organizing contractors. Katrina and Rachel are handling my on the ground stuff. And they are also professional organizers, seasoned, super fantastic. I would trust them with my own home. So we're good to go for all services here. If you are interested in the home visioning exercise, that's on my homepage. And that's free. Just fill out the little form thing, you know, and then it'll give it the information to download it. And that takes you through the whole visioning exercise. And that's great to use whether you're just reorganizing like one room or even like a space, or going literally like through your whole house or relocating your home.
Nice. That's a great tool. Thank you for offering that. So if I can have Rakshana unmute everybody, and this is just an awesome opportunity to ask the expert. I mean, how many opportunities do you have, a professional organizer with experience and insights that Amy has to be able to ask questions. And we do have a few of the prompts that we can address. So I'll just read a few of them. So if while everybody's getting unmuted, you can think about. So, one of the questions that Amy asked earlier is, what does home mean to you? That's a good thing to be able to consider. And then what do you notice most about the connection between your inner space and your home space? I'll just do 3 right now. And what is happening in life when you noticed it the most? So what is happening in life when you notice it the most, or also the least? So do you want to clarify those 3? Let's just start with those 3 right now. Amy, any of those you want to clarify, especially the 3rd?
Oh yeah. So sometimes we notice how we're feeling affected by our space, or how our space is affecting us. We might notice it more at some times and less at other times.
Okay.
So that's kind of what that question is about. And I'm truly interested to hear what people, what does home mean to you? Because it's different for everybody. And so I'm starting this, sparking this conversation series. And so this is sort of the beginning of that. And so I really just want to have like this conversation where we like unpack all that stuff. Like, what's it mean? Like, what is your connection? Because everybody really is different.
They are, and it's a great conversation. So, okay, thank you for unmuting, Rukshana, and you want to kick us off?
I will. Thank you so much, Amy, for this amazing conversation. I have a lot of notes here, and it took me back to different stages of my life, what home meant to me. And but really, when I'm gonna go back to what home means to me, because I have lived in 3 different countries, and when I travel, home is whatever I bring my stuff with everything, like my comb and my lipstick and my makeup, and then shifting to from United States, where I have my luxury stuff, to not taking a shower and all the things like that, and just having water in a bucket, the basic stuff. So I've been able to travel around the world to be able to experience what I make home of and the basic needs that I need to have with me. So as you were saying that, you took me to the basic needs, what I need, like food, shelter, and
right,
what to get me by. And then coming to United States, the things that I have more than enough, like the hot shower, the hot tub, the luxury extra clothes, and the extra shoes. And then also going through that transition of my kids right now, who are transitioning in their life, but them moving back at home, and them seeing that stages of in their life where, like, oh, their room is messy and everything is messy, so you kind of know what's going on in their right that moment in their life. So life is kind of messy right there. Figure things out. They're trying to get a job, and they're trying to get they're trying to get rid of these relationships from their past. They're trying to move out, like, but their room is messy. But just to be in that moment, and like, yeah, it's a different stage you're going through, it's all in here too.
Yeah.
And respecting that, giving the space that they need. I'm like, they'll get to it when they get it, but letting them the expectation. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, those are great stories. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful insights, Rukshana. It's been very, with your international travel, especially going to Africa, you don't have the luxuries. So it is more basic, down to basics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that you saw that, like, you're just like, oh, like home is the fluctuation between like your home, like home is this when I'm traveling, and home is this when I'm not traveling, and then home is this when the kids are home. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful perspective, because we take home with us with that, that vision, versus another way to look at it is we have a home base, but we're always taking our home, we get to bring with us what brings us comfort. I mean, that's what I bring when I go on trips. I bring my essential oils, I bring my diffuser, I bring things with me that give me comfort.
Yes.
Fun. Anybody else? You want to address those questions? We have some other questions we can throw out there, or just your general sense of this conversation, or anything that was mentioned that brings up a story that you can share.
I can share something, Cyndi and Amy.
Hey, Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, I just had my video muted so I wasn't distracting. I had to really put my life on hold for the last 4 years, and in putting my life on hold, it put my property on hold, it put my home on hold. So now I'm not in the hold pattern anymore, and like I'm bringing all these different aspects of my life, and put my business on hold. Everything was on hold. So now I'm back re-engaging in all these different aspects of my life, and I find it challenging to try and do a portion of this part of my life, and then another portion of this part of my life, and then my business in this part of my life. It's just all of that. But what I am doing that I love is I have an acre. It was really overgrown with blackberries, because 4 years is unbelievable, and the last 2 years completely overtook my property. So I did before and after pictures of, because I just got it cleared, and the bid was for 3 guys 6 hours, and it actually took 3 guys 3 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because they had to do it by hand first, an entire acre, and then come in with a bobcat, a skidder, and they still haven't planted grass, but it's still this. I mean, I like rough. I don't want pristine. I have horses, so that's my lifestyling. But I will say, because my apple tree fell down, I had all this stuff going on. What's really great is I just keep looking out my window, going, oh, it's just the best, right? Because that's like external clutter that was all consuming for me. Every time I looked out my window, every time I saw it, I didn't feel good enough to deal with it. And it's just the best. And by the way, the person that cleared my property is my neighbor because he's a landscaper. So all he had to do was walk down from his home. I'm across the street, the next property, and bring his guys in. And he's just a great guy. So I'm just really excited. And then I've been doing different projects in my house. And then, all these things are like, now I have new piles and then piles leaving and then new project here and then a business here. And I'm watching all the balls being juggled all the time. And I'm kind of laughing at myself, but I'm having fun with it. And I'm really excited to be able to get back to my business because I love my business. And I'm really excited to start having space in my home again because I was suffocating from the enormous amount of clutter. And then I have a small home on top of it. My dad did pass, and there were things that got brought into my house. And my sister, who's like constantly doing, you have too much stuff. We can just come out and get rid of it all. They just want to come in and purge. They don't care what I want or whatever. It's like, no, that's not my style. I'm going to do it my way in my time frame. But when it came to taking things out of my mom and my dad's house, because my dad was my last parent alive, it was like, here's Mark's yearbook from 1967, and you have to take it. So she just kept, and like, it's like to stop her, I acquiesce because I just can't, I couldn't deal with it. So now I also have the new clutter of stuff that my sister didn't want to get rid of, but she didn't want to take. So she used me as her storage device.
Oh no.
But it's like, really, Jeannie? I'm trying to get rid of stuff and you're dumping it in as fast as I'm getting rid of it. It's like unbelievable. But they're all projects now, getting a lot done. And so I'm pretty excited about it. That's all that's being said. But the clearing of my property, big deal. Because my property is even more important to me than my home. Because I've got my animals, my horses. Home for me is my place to be in space with my animals. It's just very comforting. And I got a brand new massage chair, so you can't get me out of that chair. So
Oh, nice. That's fantastic. I love this. I love the reflection about, also including that home, can be your outside space too, which, we've been working on, our deck, and like what I see outside my window, I have a window view from my deck, or from my desk. That matters to me also. So I've been working on that so that when I look out there, it's pleasing, it makes me feel good, not like, oh God, look at there's projects out there, kind of thing. So I love, Nancy, that you shared that about your freeing of the blackberry bushes or the berry bushes.
Well, they're not happy, but I am.
I'm just
Well, thank you guys for sharing your journey and your stories also, because it makes it so much more relevant because it's about all of our lives and the space we live in and how we relate to this space. And Amy, thank you so much for bringing your expertise and brilliance to this conversation that we could all engage in. So in closing, Amy, will you share with us some parting words of wisdom?
Well, I'm just going to close out with a little quote here from Tim Ferriss. You might know of him from the 4-Hour Work Week, but as I think I've said quite a lot already, but I really like this quote because it's pretty simplistic, but it also reflects to like this being sort of like an individual, very personal journey, which is, it's not the least amount of things, it's the optimal amount of things.
That's beautiful.
And what's optimal is different for each person, right?
Right. It changes. And that's where you need to get clear, right? Have that vision for yourself that you mentioned earlier and talked about. So thank you, Amy. What a beautiful conversation. For those of you who are on the line, thank you for joining us. And I encourage you, if you're listening to this replay, to subscribe to our Exceptional Connections channel and to also ring the bell so that you're alerted to upcoming conversations to connect. Our next one is scheduled to be on October 21st, Wednesday, October 21st, with Nicole Lex Ritchie. And she's going to talk about not allowing technology to bully you. So love to have you join us. And again, thank you, Amy. Thank you, those of you who are Rukshana and Gail and Nancy. Thanks for being a part of our conversation, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
everybody.
guys. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.